to Bloody Good Horror.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Underwater. It's like an action, sci-fi, horror, Lovecraft movie starring Kristen Stewart. If you can wrap your head around that, we're going to get to that in a brief moment here. First up, joining me tonight, he drinks beer. He has just beautiful hair. He shares my love of Brad Pitt. We don't come together on everything, Joe, but I feel like we've got a couple things which I always appreciate. Please welcome Joe to the show. You're muted, Joe. Rookie mistake.
Oh, man. Look at that. Picking up for Cece.
I was going to say it's a Cece move.
Yeah. The important things I think we agree on. Ryan Reynolds, Brad Pitt, hunky men. I think you and I have the same taste in men.
Same taste. Yeah.
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 Which, at the end of the day, what else do you need?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Next up on the show, coming to us from Indiana, one half of Cinema Fromage. Please welcome Casey to the show.
Hello.
And last up tonight, joining us to answer all of your legal questions tonight, he is a Canadian. He is a lawyer. He is a Canadian lawyer. He writes for bloodygoodhorror.com. He's also been on the show a lot recently. We're very excited to welcome back Mr. Adam to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. They should call this film Underperform at the box office.
Oh, listen.
Ooh, coming out swinging. Did you shave, Adam? You look shaven.
I did that. I'm sorry, everyone. That's in the Slack channel right now. You don't get to enjoy my bearded face.
You're ruining my whole Canadian Wilds thing that I had worked up for you. Although I guess the bow tie sort of kind of screws that up too. But
famously Canadian.
I don't think we've ever seen you in plaid, right? That's.
No, you know what? Next time, I'll just drink maple syrup instead of beer.
Yeah.
Adam was just telling us about how the Canadian government just sends you weed. That sounds great.
They can do that. It's great.
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau sends it out personally, and that's a great deal.
It's great.
Yep.
We're here tonight to talk about Underwater. This is a thing in theaters, and I think it's our first theater watch of 2020. Is that right, Joe?
I mean, it's only the 15th, so yeah, it's only our second episode.
The first real movie too, if we're not counting Three from Hell last week. So Joe, while we review the first real movie of 2020, what are we drinking?
Beer guts.
Well, we're drinking a beer. I don't know if you guys saw it today, but Shudder announced that Three from Hell is going to be out on their service in the next couple of weeks.
Wonderful.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Underwater, a fun little ditty starring one Kristen Stewart and a gang of fellas in an underwater station. One of those guys, the leader of the band.
That makes it sound weird when you say it. That makes it sound weird when you say it that way.
Yeah, it does actually. But the leader of the band, a gentleman we only know as Captain in this movie, and in honor of him and his great leadership, I picked a beer from one of my favorite breweries back east. That is Captain Lawrence Brewing Company.
Ooh.
And this is their Hop Commander IPA, which, you can kind of guess where we're going here. I've done a lot of IPAs on the show. I mean, so I'm not really going to go into the style, but this one is, pretty straightforward. A lot of hops, a lot of bitterness, lemony. It's delicious. Comes in at 6.5% alcohol. But Captain Lawrence, when I moved, we don't get them here in the Midwest, and I drank as much of their beer as I possibly could before moving out here because they're one of my favorites. Them and Six Point back in New York. They're based in Elmsford, New York, which is just outside the city, maybe a half hour. I've had the chance to go to the brewery a couple times. They actually did a collaboration with Carvel Ice Cream where they
Ooh.
did a Fudgy the Whale beer, which
Hot collab. With,
Yeah.
That was
with
about to be the only thing I knew. It's gonna be like, it's a fudge you the whale. Come to Carvel's, buy a.
This is Tom Carvel. You come here, you get your special cake. I love Captain Lawrence beer, and I love Carvel even more. Anytime we take a trip back east or head down south, because they do have a few in Florida, and the first thing I look up is where I can find a Carvel. For my 40th birthday, the gift that my wife got me was she shipped in a Fudgy the Whale from the nearest Carvel, which is about 7 hours away.
Joe, what is your life?
It's a lot of things.
It's a lot. Yeah.
But if you're ever near Carvel and you can't get them at the sort of the stands where it's like a Carvel / Taco Bell or whatever, like you have to go to the actual Carvel store. Like, do yourself a favor, get yourself a Fudgy the Whale. If you got a little space, get yourself a Cookie Puss also. You won't be disappointed. But we got off on this whole tangent. But Captain Lawrence, everything they put out, yeah, they did a collaboration with Carvel, which if anyone has a couple of cans of those and wants to send to me, like, I would love you forever. Everything they put out is great. If you can visit the brewery, I definitely recommend it. But they distribute throughout New York and Jersey and a few other areas, so definitely check out their stuff if you can find it. CaptainLawrenceBrewing.com is their website, and yeah, that's what you get.
I mean, I would be interested if they could just can ice cream cakes, and then you just pop the can open and just eat it. I mean, that's actually kind of brilliant.
Are you ice cream cake over regular ice cream? Is that your...
I mean, the problem with ice cream cake for me now is they're usually gluten because they've got crunchies in there. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're delicious. Who doesn't like a good ice cream cake? You get that mix of the ice cream and the frosting. It's great.
Yeah, I'm a big... And Carvel, I think, invented the crunchies. If they didn't invent it, they perfected it, because theirs is just hands down.
Who doesn't love a good crunchy?
Tom Carvel's in the basement, just like, I need more crunch in my Cookie Puss.
Around St. Patrick's Day, you can get the Cookie-O-Puss. Around Christmas,
Brilliant.
They take the Fudgy the Whale mold and just turn it sideways, and the tail becomes a hat, and it's Santa Claus.
Wow.
Yeah.
They didn't go with, like, the Oreo or something. They went with the Cookie-O-Puss.
Cookie-O-Puss.
Cookie-O-Puss. Yeah.
Oh, what about O Cookie Puss? That's kind of better. Joe, real quick here, before we jump into the review, we have to issue the first ever retraction in Beer Guts history. So we tried to, you may remember, Joe, we tried to discuss this last week. It got cut out of the show for reasons we're not going to talk about.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so what was this beer you were talking about a couple weeks ago? 21st Amendment. It's this like rosé ale thing, right?
Yeah, their Spark Ale. It was my pick of the year. And actually, we've had a few fans. One coming over from Australia to Anaheim, who mentioned he's going to get his hands on it. So word is spreading. People are excited.
It came up, the question of the language of brewed to reduce gluten, and I was commenting that made me, the vagueness of that made me a little uneasy. Our good friend Elisa at 21st Amendment stopped into our Slack to let us know, hey, just so you know, this is basically the same process that Omission uses, which is a beer that I do drink and don't have any problems with. So if you're out there listening and you're a gluten person like me and I happen to turn you off, I just want you to know you're good to go with this rosé ale there. So
yeah, that was very nice of her, because I don't think she's been on Slack since the gathering. And for those of you who don't know her, she pretty much hooked up the entire thing for us. So
it was awful, because I was pretty much just doing a bit, and then when she was so nice about responding, I felt so guilty about it. So Elisa, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
Welcome to my world. That's pretty much 75% of my interactions with all of our listeners.
But the people who can't eat gluten understand, like, you pretty much you go way overcautious, because it turns bad if you don't. So
I can imagine.
That was it.
Yeah.
All right.
Hands down, our best listener.
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't say best, Joe. We're not ranking people here.
No, I have.
She's up there.
Joe does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually...
Well, she's physically brought you beer on multiple occasions, so.
Yeah, she brought everybody beer. She was handing out free samples at the get together.
Yeah, it's true. She did. She's a gem. Anyway, thank you for that, Joe. Killing it in the beer department as per usual. It's it, guys. Let's do a quick break and review Underwater.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time.
And we're back. Mr. Adam. You shaved your beard, buddy.
I did.
I don't love it because I am a beard appreciator, and so nothing personal, but I just always like to see people representing the beards. What I will say is that when you shave it, it does make you look even fancier, which I like for the word of the day tie-in. So,
Yes, we just got words in Canada, so I'm very excited.
yes.
So you have to do this in French as well? Like you have to.
Oh.
Yes. By law, get ready to hear everything the same in French.
All right, guys, so
I'm ready for today's
let,
word.
Let's do it, guys. Let's do the word of the day.
Hi, Eric. Today's word of the day is immolation. Now, you might have heard the word immolation before. It's what happens when something is killed or offered as a sacrifice. In some ancient societies, immolation of animals was a common ritual used to gain favor with the gods. It comes from the Latin word immolat, meaning sprinkled with sacrificial meal.
Ooh.
Immolation always involves a sacrifice or offering of some sort. The word often involves burning, a common method of sacrifice. Self-immolation is when you kill yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so I won't tell you why that's relevant to this film, but it's relevant on multiple points.
Check back in about 35 minutes, and we'll tell you how that is relevant to this film. All right. Thank you for that, Adam. Joe,
Oh God.
do you want me to do it? I can do it.
Nah, I'll do it. Yeah,
All right, go ahead. Why don't you synopsize?
Yeah, so Underwater, starring Kristen Stewart of Charlie's Angels reboot fame. I think that's probably what she's best known for.
I'm going to look up the director quick.
Yeah. So she stars as a engineer in an underwater station. We get kind of a intro with a lot of news clippings, and she works for this company that's drilling. Adam, do you remember why? Because I know you mentioned it, like why they're actually drilling into the ground.
I think they are a energy mining company, and my understanding is it's a form of fracking, but they never said the word fracking because they didn't want to be sued.
Yeah.
Really
yeah,
quickly,
so-
Adam, did you mention that you knew who the writers were on this? I just looked at the director. I didn't. He looks pretty green. He's done a couple of shorts and stuff. But
Oh, yes, I did mention. The writers are Brian Duffield and Adam Kozad. Brian Duffield, we would know, as writing The Babysitter. He also wrote, just 1 second, Insurgent, which is that like teen film that's kind of a Twilighty thing about a wall and something. I don't know. He didn't write a lot of things. It's a very green writing team.
got it. Okay, Joe. Go on.
Yeah, so we kind of kick right off quickly in this. We open with Kay Stu in the bathroom, kind of starting her daily ritual, and immediately shit starts to go down where the station she's on kind of springs a leak. Things are falling apart around her, and immediately we know that something awful has happened. Then, she starts to try and escape this area, bumps into a few other people that are still in the, pod or whatever you want to call it. Quickly find that a lot of people did not make it out of the area where she did. And then, she kind of meets up with the captain who's underground there leading the team. But really, there's 5 or 6 people that come together and kind of hash this plan of how to get back up to the surface. Slowly discovering that the arms of this underground station that they're in are falling apart around them. They devise this plan to get into these underground, water suits or whatever you want to call them, walk about 1.5 miles across the ocean floor to another station where there are escape pods waiting. And on that journey, we discover that there are also some underground monsters living in the water around them, which have probably caused the station to fall apart, but we don't quite know yet. And yeah, that kind of sums up what's going on in this movie.
Why'd you spill your beans, basically?
Yeah.
Casey, what'd you think?
So, this movie's got an interesting premise, and the first thing I'll give it for all of you fellow tabletop gaming nerds out there, I think this is the closest we've gotten to getting real space marine armor on film. The The deep sea pressure suits were pretty cool. This movie's not necessarily bad, but I had a hard time connecting with it, and ultimately it left me a little bit bored because I couldn't connect to any of the characters. There's a lot of it's hard to shoot a movie that you can connect with the characters because these people are in these giant bulky suits for 50% of the movie at least. And like the bits in the space station were really good. They had reasons for those to not stick around, and I understand why they're forcing them out and everything. They didn't do really good job with character development. We didn't even get a whole lot of character development on K-Stew. We had a couple times where they would kind of drop a nugget and then they would never touch back on it. So I could tell you there was K-Stew, there was TJ Miller, there was the guy that I think that was in 10 Cloverfield Lane, and I couldn't tell you who any of the rest of the characters were. That's my biggest problem with this movie.
10 Cloverfield Lane. Who's
guy that was in the wasn't that the guy that was in the bunker with him?
I don't think
the
so,
guy that had the little
question
headband
mark?
on that was with the Asian lady.
Huh. I did not pick up on
I don't
that.
know. Anyway, Adam, we can look it up. Adam, what do you think?
Well, I would describe this movie, I think I described it in Slack as a facehugger latching on to the Meg's premise. Because it was very much like watching Alien, but I don't know, without the gravitas, the issues I had generally were the fact that because it was underwater, you would think that they would use that for some of its scare potential and some of the explanation of, like, you know, why things are difficult. Everybody kind of moved the same speed that you would on land, just underwater. And that's, you know, just how they shot. I think Luke, in his review, praised the sound design. I actually thought it was fairly poor. I feel like whenever I don't like a movie, just because I'm kind of bored, I start latching onto weird technical things. I think Kristen Stewart did a great job. She proved Joe's theory that you don't have to wash your feet because she ran half the film with bloody feet.
I would like to point out that those were definitely like some type of like mech suit situation. Like we're in a like pretty, I think, clear like near future situation because they show that those things have some like locomotion ability on their own, which I think could explain why they're, you know,
It's
cruising through the
possible.
water.
I mean, there's lots of like little weird technical gripes, like, you know, with logic. But again, I'm watching an underwater alien movie with a unfounded race that's carnivorous, but somehow lived off of. There weren't any other animals down there, so they just self-propagate. There was a lot of things. And I think that if I'm latching on to those minor details, it's because I wasn't engaged, as Casey mentioned, with the characters themselves. I think Kristen Stewart did a good job with the material that they gave her. The one thing I would say that kind of supports Casey's point is that a lot of the time a character would die and then someone would go, that guy was really great. He told this one joke once. And you'd be like, okay, why didn't that character tell the jokes so I could like them?
Exactly.
Or like another character would say like, oh yeah, you know, that captain, he has a dead kid, and you see a picture of a dead kid, and you're like, well, that's a kind of creative way to do that, but like you're also like, that didn't help me like him at the time.
It was weird that he had it in his locker too, which
Right?
I thought was strange.
In the abandoned locker, no less.
I have a question about that locker actually, because it seemed like there maybe was a piece of exposition dropped in that locker, right? That was aside from the kid that I want to talk about it later. But Joe, go ahead, so we can keep going on.
I'm definitely not as negative on this as Adam or even Casey. Probably, I can't say this movie would make like my top 10 or anything. Probably, unless like everything else is real garbage. So I guess right now it's number one.
Number one, baby.
Two factors that probably played into me enjoying it, I guess is the word that I could use. One, there was a 9:45 showing, which the earlier the better for me. And two, it only clocks in at about an hour 35. With credits, you're at like an hour 30 on the dot. So already I'm not annoyed by it, no matter what happens. And
It's kind of breezy in a way that I enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I really enjoyed the fact that, like I mentioned when we were discussing the plot, was that we pretty much get 3 minutes of setup, and then all of a sudden shit hits the fan. Which to Adam pointed out over email, and I agree with him. Like the way they kind of set a lot of this up is just an intro with a lot of news clippings, which I thought was kind of lazy. But I liked once things kicked off. I'll say the part with the underground monsters is probably what irked me most about this, because I didn't feel nearly as much tension with them as I did with them trying to escape this underground station, right? Like
I think the first act is super tense when they're trying to get out.
I don't know. Like to me, it was still more tense them trying to actually get to the pods than having to deal with like any sort of danger from these monsters, because there was a lot of times where they're just walking underground or underwater and they're not really a threat. When they attack, obviously it's a big issue, but like it wasn't as dramatic to me as it was them just trying to like survive and deal with their oxygen running out and get to this other station and actually get out. Like that, honestly, like I probably would enjoy this movie if they had just cut out the monster thing altogether and we just had like an Abyss style film where they had to get, back above ground, because that was tense enough for me. I really enjoyed the captain character.
Me too.
I liked him a lot. TJ Miller is tough for me with, everything going on in his personal life. I guess this was filmed back in 2007, just released now.
17.
What did I say? 2017.
It was an SD.
Disney acquired Fox, and like that delayed everything. So I'm not a fan of his, his acting or his personal life. So that was kind of tough to watch. But everybody else I enjoyed enough. So at the end of the day, this didn't blow me away, but I thought it was short and smooth enough that it kept me entertained for the hour 25 or 30.
Yeah, I will say that I'm not necessarily I can't necessarily quibble too much with some of what you guys are saying. I might argue, Adam, that like you're being a little nitpicky, but I feel like you even were like, when I don't love characters or movie or whatever, I sort of do that. So I think that this is a movie that offers enough of that up for you to be like, what? But I had a pretty opposite reaction to almost everybody. Like even Joe, like I pretty much loved this whole movie. I don't think it's amazing. I agree with Joe. This is not going to top anybody's list this year. But this is a kind of thing that I really like. It's like light, breezy, sci-fi action horror kind of thing. I feel like it gets going right away, which I loved. This thing gets, first of all, like they're just really cool. After the news montage and stuff, there's what I thought was a really cool long CG tracking shot where they go down the elevator, like underwater down to where the station is, but it's in the Marianas Trench or whatever. And so it's this long extended shot. And it's flowing around and showing you this big apparatus. Like even then in my head, I'm going, the logistics of building this like tunnel thing and building this whole lab and this drill in the Marianas Trench makes absolutely no sense. But I'm kind of like whatever with it, because I'm here, I'm watching this movie. It's setting it up as a near future thing, I think, to give itself a little breathing room with some of the technical stuff. And also it's just kind of spectacle. And so I'm willing to give myself over to that to a large extent. I think there's actually a lot of really neat visuals in this movie. The director is definitely inspired a lot by like so here's the Alien to me. The main thing is that the director was clearly visually inspired a lot by it, and specifically with like environmental and tech design. Like their jackets straight up look like the Nostromo jackets, and the foam padding along the wall looks just like the Nostromo, and it's like that's kind of where it begins and ends. I don't have a problem with that because I actually really enjoy that. It's sort of like 70s sci-fi blue collar space aesthetic. I feel like again, it's like, listen, you ever seen the people work on an oil rig? They're not as pretty as these people. That was something I was thinking about at points during this movie. But
have
again,
you ever seen the movie Armageddon, Eric?
Well, but even in Armageddon, Joe, Steve Buscemi worked on that rig. Like yes, Ben Affleck is on that, but look at like all the people around him. You know what I mean? It's like they actually in that one do a decent job.
Are you saying Bruce Willis is not a handsome man?
Okay, the two of them or whatever. But I'm saying like they threw a Steve Buscemi in there. I guess like TJ Miller's your Steve Buscemi here.
Exactly.
So that's a little weird, but I feel like I don't whatever. Again, like it's a lot of stuff I'm willing to just kind of overlook because I think that this is fun. It's intense. I think that it takes a lot of inspiration from The Descent, especially in these early parts where they're kind of spelunking, trying to get because the whole station's collapsed in on itself, and they do great shots similar to The Descent where they're trying to creep through these little crevices, which is a thing in movies that I can like barely keep my eyes open during because it messes me up. I will agree the character stuff is very thin. I think the actors, obviously, whatever, like TJ Miller, your mileage may vary, but I think the captain and Kristen Stewart in particular, and also other dude with the bandana, they're all so likable that I think they're bringing a lot of like personality and color to those characters, even though we're not given backstory. And so to me, there's a lot of camaraderie that builds up right between like Kristen Stewart and this marine biologist and her boyfriend, and there's obviously like here's an example, right? So like Kristen Stewart, again, we don't get a ton on her as a character, but we see that she's brave. This she springs right excuse me. She springs right into action when the shit goes down. Then she sees the captain. She immediately defers to him. And that gives you like some contextual information. Like this is a guy that's respected. He's a leader. He knows what he's doing. And so that stuff I think is there. And I think a lot of that is the actors. Because you get a lot of that from like Kristen Stewart's change in demeanor when she runs into him. Right. And so again, like I think the cast is elevating the writing in a lot of ways. But what's nice, and for me, why I don't really dwell on the characters too much, is like it just moves. Like it's set piece, set piece, set piece. It's all built around some kind of tension, like whether it works for you or not. I like the monsters a lot. I love the design. I think one of the most tense scenes in the movies is when they're trying to swim under this thing, and somebody gets caught and literally ripped out of their suit, and their head like fills with blood while they're trying to rescue the person. That's like awesome. Like I think that all those, to me, all those little moments in the movie, they really nail. There's another one later on in the movie where Kristen Stewart gets half swallowed by an enormous monster thing. Like, just fantastic effects, really well directed. And I actually really bought all that tension in those scenes. We can talk about it, but I love where it goes. I don't care. I am always down for a giant monster reveal at the end of a movie. I thought I liked the way they did it. The visuals are great. Again, I think it leans into like I would. It's funny because reports are that this cost $80 million, but I would liken it almost to like a B monster movie, which is part of why I liked it. I compared it a little bit to Life. Sorry, still getting over cold. Life obviously has a more A-list cast and some more character stuff going on, a little more of a Twilight Zone-y ending, but the action is kind of similar. Again, it's like a crew of people stuck in a confined sort of near future sci-fi space. So I really liked it. I was like super happy when I got out of this. I could pretty much telegraph like people's kind of feelings. Like I feel like if Schnars were here, he'd probably be on Adam's side because Schnars and I, just the eternal divide, just can never bridge it. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, to me, the thing that saved this for me is exactly what you mentioned, where it moves along. So you're never really lingering on a scene, and there's not a lot of downtime. So I didn't really have time while watching this to nitpick a lot of stuff. I fully agree with a lot of the points Adam brought up with, his issues around the technology behind what's going on and all that. And Adam can obviously explain it better than I can. But like, to me, we were just getting a group of people trying to get from point A to point B and running into all these issues along the way. I mean, I liked it enough for the fact that we didn't kind of get repetitive. So we go to one part, you're dealing with the monsters. You go to another part, we're dealing with their tanks running out of air. Like, it wasn't like go to point A, deal with monsters. Go to point B, deal with monsters again. Go to, we didn't, and a lot of movies kind of fall back on that. So yeah. I actually kind of appreciated that this one didn't.
It's three separate things, right? Yeah, it's like the initial, like escaping the facilities and dealing with the crumbling of the facilities. Then it's the monsters. Yeah, and then there's an extended scene that I think reminds me of like... 47 feet under or whatever, where it's a lot of like there was a lot of like tank work done in this movie, like underwater stunts, people trying to get from point A to point B, limited visibility, limited oxygen. I like this stuff a lot. If you want to do a really fun drinking game in this movie, drink every time someone pops on or off their pressurized helmet.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed the sound and Foley work in this movie, although again, like, you certainly question the logistics of these suits for sure. But I like the design. It's almost like a little BioShock-esque. Like there's a Casey was mentioning, there's a definite like mech warrior kind of vibe to them that I really liked.
Oh yeah, and like I said before, with my problems with the movie, largely around customers, characters, you know, and my biggest point, because I know like when we hit, I think at about the hour point, I checked my watch and I was like, oh crap, there's another 30 minutes still. That's the thing that stands out in my head with this. But at the same time, that's not to say it's all crap or anything like that. I think the visuals in this were fantastic. The action scenes and stuff were really cool. And some of the stuff, I think those underwater suits were cool as hell. You couldn't tell who was in which one, but they looked awesome. And watching them trundle around on the floor of the Marianas Trench, pretty cool idea. And they had one thing I think they did a really good job with in this movie is tension, because even though I didn't really connect with the characters, there was moments in this movie where I found myself holding my breath a little bit, especially like you were talking about, Eric, when they're crawling through the tunnels and the rubble and stuff like that. It was very Descent-like, and you're just sitting there biting your nails. They did really good with that kind of stuff.
It's very kind of thrill ridey, I think, without much under the surface.
Yeah, that's a good description.
Adam?
I was just gonna say, to Joe's point that dealt with not being repetitive. I think that's a really good thing in a movie, and I think, you know, that's what they were going for, was this movement. It did leave me, and every time they like would leave one type of situation, then I'm like, oh, did they just? I guess pressurization doesn't exist anymore. It was just necessary for that one scene. And then every second after that, I was like, oh no. Or like, you know, oh, I guess they don't care about the monster. They're just gonna wait here and hang out and have a conversation.
Adam, have you ever considered that you might be too smart to have fun?
Yeah.
Yes.
That
was
well, fair.
On paper, I should love this movie. It had a lot of things going for it. I think that it had a really good female relationship between Kristen Stewart and the Emily character, Jessica Hardwick, I think it is, or Jessica Henwick. So she, like, you know, is actually very scared. She's down there. I was kind of confused how she passed the psych eval. I was very worried for her corgi, which is with someone. Anyway, she is, you know, dealing with some things. She's got the, you know, boyfriend side character, but like she's very scared by the whole thing. And Kristen Stewart is inspiring her with her past. The Kristen Stewart character has, it feels like it should be an arc, but there's nothing, she makes no change. So there is no arc. So like it starts with her saving the spider. So like, you know, that's the metaphor for the rest of the movie, is that she's going to become a leader and save everyone. She then hits a button and kills some people in order to save the station. So you're like, okay, well, she's willing to make sacrifices, but she's going to have to learn it's important to protect the people she cares about. Then, you know, we go through, we you know, meet the captain character that, you know, he makes a sacrifice and you're like, wow, that's really inspiring. She's going to get inspired to sacrifice herself. And then, you know, you finally get like her kind of doing her like, go, I'll stay with the pods, I guess. But like, she doesn't really have enough connection with the characters there. So I'm kind of like, okay, what did she learn? She wasn't like really self-oriented before. Just her whole arc was, I save people because I'm good.
I mean,
well,
I think we get a lot of backstory with her around like the boyfriend and the guilt she felt about that. So
she couldn't save him. Yeah,
well, which is also justification for like why she just decided to go work underwater somewhere. You know what I mean? Like
my problem with that, my problem with that though, as far as like what I was talking about, how they drop these little nuggets and stuff like that. We saw the guy that had gotten out with her at the beginning. They're chasing around. They mentioned that all of a sudden they used to know each other. She looks at a picture. I actually thought it was that guy for a minute. And then in passing at the bottom on the seafloor, she mentions, oh yeah, my husband was on a dive and he disappeared and this is our best friend and he was there. And so it's just kind of an info dump, really, is how I took it.
I don't know. I mean, to me, one, I think it would have been interesting if we had found out that the other woman's corgi had been dead all along. because it
It's a twist.
it seemed like everybody that was still down at that station had some sort of loss or something terrible happen to them.
Yeah.
Other than TJ Miller, who apparently just had like a learning disability or something. I
Seemed a
wasn't quite sure
little
about that.
They
slow.
Bud.
Why is he down there? That
I
like
don't
that's
know.
that thing where you're like, this stupid man apparently can be down but with the engineers.
I'm
They're
trying
like, well, he doesn't read a book, but then he has a quote where he's like, he quotes Alice in Wonderland twice, and he quotes 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and I'm like, pick your character. Is he stupid or does he have literary knowledge?
Adam, those were both movies, okay?
Yeah. And also, I mean, someone could have read him the books. Like, I assume maybe he can't read, so he really latched on to the books that were read to him. Like, there
Yeah.
could be a whole backstory.
I think there's a 95% chance TJ Miller just showed up and was TJ Miller all day.
Does he have a moment though? Like, because I guess to Adam's point, you'd expect a character like that at some point to have a moment where their one weird skill or area of knowledge would come in handy.
That's what I
you know what I
assumed
mean?
was
Yeah.
kind of his deal. I did think it was weird also that when they find him, he's just like perfectly lying down in the rubble, like pretty much sleeping in like a little coffin area.
Yeah,
And they
so-
just have to like pull him up.
He has a really weird comment. I don't know if you guys caught this, but when she finds him, he's like climbing out, and this is like a
Oof.
big thing on the writers, and I don't know how Kristen Stewart agreed to say like haven't, but he says something about like he makes some comment about how she's flat chested, like but he
Yeah, like his flat-chested friend or something. Yeah.
yeah, like he's saying it. I think they think that it's like endearing in the moment because he's like, oh, it's offensive, but he's saying something endearing because he loves me. But it's like that was really fucking weird. Like, why would you even put that line
Yeah.
in there?
And it's even weirder now that it's come out and TJ Miller has gone through what he's gone through. Like, it just makes it even creepier.
I mean,
yeah,
I
kind of
don't,
winced.
I
when
don't expect that he wrote that line, but I still think it's weird that it was
maybe.
spoken out loud on a set with a bunch of adults and everybody was like, "Yeah, this is funny."
Yeah. Which I
It's not fun. I
to-
mean, listen, if you write a funny joke around something like that, like I'm willing to give you a little leeway, but like he just says it.
yeah, and then there's no reaction from Kristen Miller. There's no sort of I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It felt very out of place.
Hey Joe,
And, I mean,
who's Kristen Miller?
Stewart.
They fused into one being.
Kristen, I think I may work with her.
Yeah.
Half problematic, half villain. Kristen
mean,
Miller.
On that point also, it was a little cringy to me that half the time the main character spends in her underwear for this movie. It felt very unnecessary, especially when they justify it by putting her in this sort of mech suit that TJ Miller also fits in, but apparently it's so tight that you have to take off your clothes, yet Big Boy can get in there with no problem.
She also specified she's the smallest in one scene, so they must
Yeah.
have sizes of suit, or
Okay.
else that line made no sense.
That was one moment that I was like, that doesn't make sense because they're all basically wearing the same size suit. Yeah.
They're
I'm
all
with
wearing
you
the
on that
same
one.
size, yet they're all like significantly different sizes.
I mean, it's another thing that I chalked up to like being obsessed with the Aliens franchise or like
Yeah.
heavily homaging it because obviously like there's some precedence there.
oh, absolutely.
is-
I thought so.
You know, I
thought
think
the
they
same
try to
thing.
balance it by like making TJ Miller do it too. But what you don't get is like, and I also like in the movie's defense, I really didn't find any of the camera work super leery at all.
No,
she's
no, not
wearing
at
a
all.
sports bra. It's not like she's like, listen, that scene in Alien is like considerably a lot hornier than anything in this movie. Let's just put that out there. But
I-
what they don't show is like the captain. Like really, they don't really focus on him doing it. You know what I mean? Like
Really? In my version, I saw peen. Like he like full on. There was balls.
the suit doesn't work unless it's contacted directly with your wiener.
Yeah. To be fair, I saw it at like this creepy theater downtown in Chicago.
Right, right.
Also, none of
Well,
these
you tried-
characters are talking about were in this.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you saw underwear, not underwater.
I may have been watching a porn.
But yeah, no, I think there is an argument that someone could make that like if you don't want to go back and watch the old Alien, like clearly this was written for a female character. Although I would argue there isn't like a ton of things that rely on that. But I think it might be a good updated version of that if you like you connect with the powerful Kristen Stewart character and you want more positive female leads in your movies. I'm a little sad that this movie got like so buried because of all of the things because it's just another
Well, I mean,
Kristen Stewart movie that kind of got buried and
I mean,
it kind of
it got buried.
Fun.
I mean, obviously intentionally. So I live outside of Boston, and like I went to the theater here, opening weekend, this thing was in the theater all the way at the end of the hall. You know how every theater has the one creepy, weirdly shaped one with like half the seats? It was in that theater on opening weekend. So like I would doubt, I'm going to recommend this movie. I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of people out there won't even be able to find it week 2.
My 9:45 was actually fairly full. Like I think only
Yeah,
like
mine
the
was fairly
shitty
full,
seats
too.
up front were not taken.
Yeah, this was 10:45 on a Sunday, and there was 3 people in the theater.
Yeesh.
I had to sit next to people. It was that crowded.
On the bonus, on the plus side, I had plenty of leg room. I could just spread out.
Reclining seats or no?
And nobody was next to me, so I didn't think of this, but I really could have just put that that like little divider up and just laid out. I could have splayed out there.
That
You
would
could have had Keen out the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While the
I mean, I
As it
wasn't.
was intended.
I wasn't in. I wasn't in Joe's theater.
I mean, I think if you would have asked the 2 other people, I've been like, "Do you guys mind? We're in separate rows. If I take my pants off, like, is that?"
Yeah, as long as you ask first, get consent, dude.
So before we kind of, do you guys want to talk about the third act / ending a little bit?
Before
Yeah,
we
I
get to
think-
that. I wanted to expand a little bit on what Adam was talking about with like the alien comparisons, because he's right. It's very much Alien, and I've seen a couple
Well,
of reviews out there that
the
mention
movie-
it, even like in their headline.
The movie is not Alien. I want to point that out. Like, it's very much not Alien. I think it's more an aesthetic thing. It's like they're cribbing that like.
There's
set-
still some strong comparisons, though.
I guess. I mean, it's a monster
There's a
thing.
mother.
and-
It's aliens, I guess, too, because there's
Yeah.
And it's,
But you
it's
could make
strong
just as many
female
allusions
lead
to,
in
like,
upper
something like-
underwear.
but also the monster's very like Cloverfield-esque. You know what I mean? Like, I saw
Yeah.
somebody describe this as like the kind of sequel that Cloverfield should be getting instead of like that thing that they made on Netflix.
But
I
my
would
point
argue.
was-
Sorry, please go, Casey.
Oh, no, I was gonna say my point is I think I would have enjoyed this more if they would have leaned more into the alien thing and kept this in the space station. I think it's the parts when they get out there walking across the seafloor where it kind of loses me. It just seems kind of silly and whatnot. Whereas when you're in that claustrophobic space like Alien was, and if you got those creepy ass fish things coming inside the machine, the thing, or if they prolonged it collapsing around them, I think it would have been a lot more tension. The explosions were cool, and the little monsters were whatever, but like
See,
the big reveal at the end looked cool, but it wasn't necessarily scary. I think if they were coming in there after them and hiding in the rafters,
I
and they
don't-
didn't know where they were.
I don't think any of it's scary. I think it's really more like sci-fi action. But I loved
Tense.
honestly.
Yeah, that's fair.
I loved all that stuff. All that stuff with
There was-
them jumping back and forth, but like trying, because they're basically like, they escape the initial station, and then they've got these old like, kind of older stations that they are abandoned that they kind of have to get to in order to get to like new escape pods or whatever. I thought all that stuff was great, honestly.
Yeah.
I think there was some really good like tense moments, and it did subvert a few times, like little things I thought might happen, like when the lights went out and that alien, like the weird creature, was on board there, but like the lights were out. I was like, oh, this thing, like it could be anywhere. Like it would be great if the lights came back on and it's gone. But I guess they were kind of towing at that point the like scientific line of it. I thought that like in terms of like little set pieces, as you mentioned, there's lots of great tense moments. I think the opening, if you just cut out the like beginning thing with the drill stuff and you just started going underwater, that opening was so tense, and her running. Second I saw her leave her room with bare feet, I was like, oh no, nothing good ever happened when you don't put your boots on. Like I was just thinking about Die Hard.
Yeah, no, I was thinking
and
of
was
Die
just
Hard
like,
too.
It was like, oh man, this is like so good. And like she's like Kristen Stewart delivers some like little performance things, like when her hand shakes when she's doing fixing the computer. It's really great. When she starts like over explaining to the captain something because she's tense, like that
I
stuff.
really like her. I honestly don't. I mean, it's funny because we did that our Pats movie recently too, Lighthouse. It's like, hopefully we can all move on from just sort of hating actors because they were in Twilight as horror fans. I think also, I think she gets a little bit of a bum rap about being a little under emotive or something, but it's definitely a more subtle style that she has, but she's really good in this, and I think gives a lot of emotion and to me, and really endears you to her throughout it.
I think in this character too, it fits really well. I mean, I'll say I have trouble with that sort of emotion that she gives in something like Charlie's Angels. Like that seems like a leap to me, but like this, I thought it matched perfectly with the character that they were going for. Like she's very sort of calm, cool, collected. Like, all right, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna do this. Like, and that's her role. And I thought it fit really well.
Yeah.
The Charlie's Angels thing cracks me up because that's the biggest thing you could tell watching this movie just from her hairstyle and everything in it that she shot this shortly before she went to work on Charlie's Angels. Just from those hairstyles you see in the trailers and everything.
I'm into it. Honestly, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is like I love the big monster reveal, but the scene leading up to that where it's the final leg of their underwater journey and they're trying to get into this old abandoned exploratory station or whatever, and it's like a field of like hanging. They almost look like hibernating of the smaller monsters, and they don't know there's a bigger monster at this point, and it's almost becomes like a spy tripwire scene or whatever. But it's just gross, like undulating things, and they're like moving through them. That scene is really good. There's a couple little like tension breaking laughs there, and then all that leads up to this insane scene where the thing like half eats her, and we actually get her POV for a little bit of it with like the insides of this thing's stomach like slapping up against her like her helmet thing. That, I mean, I actually think there's a lot of visual flair in this movie. Like from beginning to end, this director has he put a lot of thought into the way that stuff is framed and shot here, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
He might be elevating the script. He might be doing that. Like,
what'd you think of the lesser monsters in comparison to like the big baddie at the end?
They were good. I thought they were good.
You know, I don't know.
I really liked that scene that Eric's talking about because it's almost like seaweed kind of hanging down,
It's
and,
creepy,
like, trying to like, go under. Like I know I kind of not complained, but mentioned that I actually enjoyed like the underwater aspect of this more than the monsters, but like that scene in particular, I thought was super tense.
Yeah, even before that, I'm always a sucker for like dark water where something can just emerge from behind a character or something.
Yep.
It should be pointed out what a renaissance we're in right now for like aquatic-based horror movies. How many ocean-based horror movies have there been in the last 5 years? If you count all the shark movies, there's been like 5 shark movies at least in the last couple of years, like theatrical. Right?
You got to count Triangle with that too, right?
That was like Triangle was like a decade ago, bro.
Yeah, that was like one of the first episodes I was on.
Still good.
Time dilation.
Still
Casey.
ocean based.
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly on a boat.
No,
right?
I'm talking about 47 feet meters under, and the thing with Blake Lively, and then the sequel to 47 meters down, or whatever the hell that movie's called.
The Shape of Water.
Yeah, but it is like there's so many.
By how much I loved it.
There's so many water-based horror movies. It's crazy.
Fucking Nemo.
You know, it's funny because now that you mentioned that, I'm not necessarily phobic about like underwater movies or anything like that, but I think I've missed all of those episodes.
Going all the way back to Triangle, apparently.
Apparently.
The last one I saw, it was 14 years ago.
So we're going to get pretty spoilery here in case you want to see it. So the third act, basically, they find escape pods. Did anybody else get Spaceballs vibes from this scene?
Oh, 100%.
Like, the escape pods are literally, like, kind of designed the same way. I was half expecting them to turn a corner and see a circus bear in one, like trying to...
I wanted, like, when she was doing her computer stuff, I wish she would have said, all right, we're closing down the zoo.
One of them isn't going to work, so she basically shoves the two of them in, makes them leave. And then she sees that the monsters are following them. I really like this visual. She's in this control room thing, and she can see the big one kind of looking at her. Those visuals are really neat. But then she basically decides to sacrifice herself. She apparently, even though theoretically she's like a low-level person on the ship, she apparently knows the code to self-destruct the whole thing.
Of course.
Well, it's not hard. You just put those levels of those four knobs up.
You just push all the knobs up.
She makes the reactor explode, explode, and then it kind of kills everything. So she gets this like heroic sacrificial moment at the end. I will say again, like, I agree, Adam, there's not a lot of depth going on here. That's usually a role, like, forget about the fact that she's the lead of the movie, right? They would usually save that role for the male character, the like sacrificial. Like, I immediately thought of Bruce Willis in Armageddon, right? But like,
spoiler alert, I guess if you haven't seen Armageddon.
they give her the chance to do that in this movie, and whether or not it's earned or not is obviously another conversation. But I thought that was interesting.
Two things I wanted to say. One, how did you guys react to the scene where she punches the Emily character in the face?
I love that.
loved it.
I was like, oh yeah, no, this is great. She's like action heroing, but I was like, oh, okay.
You know why I
We've
loved
all
it?
had that moment in movies where you're watching characters interact like that, and we're sitting there saying,
It's annoying.
just leave them,
Yeah.
tell them to shut up, punch them, and she did it. It was great.
I feel like that. Yeah, that's like a little bit of audience gratification of just like because you want to punch her in the face and just say like, get in this stupid pod.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Okay. The one thing, like, I guess I had two more things. One, I was going to talk about the levels, but I'll leave that for last. I was going to say Eric was very close to bringing this up. I think this is a really good kind of Cthulhu mythos, or like, an H.P. Lovecraft mythos story, in that we're never really, there's no explanation of why these monsters exist or what they're doing, but there are indications that the mining company knew about it, because when you go into the locker, there are pictures of these weird alien creatures that have been like drawn up, and then like the sites, and then they've abandoned the shepherd station, and the captain says, well, I don't want it, like, that station's abandoned, don't go there. And there's no explanation for why not to go there. So I assume he discovered these monsters and then moved to the other station.
Now,
so it's kind of this big narrative that's behind the scenes.
Now,
that's
was
really
that
cool. And
was that specifically his locker? Because then the other thought was like, does he become a bad character to her because she gets really upset? I mean, for obvious reasons, but like, does that turn you on him as a character because he was holding that back? Not that, like, well, listen, before this happened, that would have been good information, but once it has happened, it doesn't help you at all.
I took it as sorrow.
Yeah. It's kind of two things happening, because at the same time, we're hit over the head with the fact that he said his daughter was 14, and we're getting the thing where it's like, that was actually really cool. The fact that there was an explanation from the science character that was like, yeah, people forget underwater how long time has passed and whatever, and it turns out she's dead. It's a little on the nose and obvious, but I thought it was a creative thing, and they were using that to distract from the, like, yeah, this guy has been in on it the whole time, probably.
And you definitely
I did
know.
not pick up on that.
You
I
definitely
didn't either.
didn't pick up on that he was in on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's
the
because
drawings and stuff.
it's when before she puts on the new suit and she's in that place by herself. It's right at the same moment, like right after I think it's right after she finds a picture of the daughter. She finds like sketches of the monsters. Like,
Yeah, I saw the sketches. I just didn't, honestly, I couldn't focus on them enough to understand what they actually
it's
were.
super subtle. It's super subtle, and then it goes right into her like meltdown about it, basically.
Yeah, I was also confused, like, why is she so pissed right now? Like,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
if they would have extended the scene on those drawings, it would have been more effective, because I totally missed it too.
But to
Okay.
Adam's point, it is there's something kind of intriguing and mysterious about it when you don't
Yeah.
linger on it too
No, I-
much, because it does
And at
hint
the
at
end, they
hints at
kind
a-
of show you the cool, like, in the news clips, they're like, yeah, the company's going back to drilling. So I think the implication was they knew it, but, like, the profit and the cost of the drilling
Yeah.
rig was so expensive that there was nothing to do.
And part of the reason why I call it kind of B movie too is like when this giant monster comes up at the end, like it seems kind of sentient in a way that you wouldn't necessarily like. It seems to be straight up, Elder God-esque in a way that I really liked. Like it's
it was very Clash of the Titans Kraken revealing at the end.
As a big Lovecraft Cthulhu nerd, I appreciate what you're saying and everything like that, and I see it with the visuals too. But it also made me wish if they would have gone more into a Cthulhu type story with the psychological horror and stuff, like maybe they crack the edge of Cthulhu and there's waves of madness and shit like that. It would have been a lot better movie.
I kept thinking the captain was going to go crazy and kill everybody. That seemed like a really obvious trope that they were going to go that route, but they didn't do that.
Kind of an Event Horizon type thing.
I
If they
kind of
would've went that route.
appreciate that they didn't. Like, I kind
Yes.
of appreciate that, like, we didn't have any, like, space madness and nobody turned into a werewolf and she fought with a vampire.
Space
Like, I thought-
Madness was
Ice cream
Joe.
bar with the oh so nutty covering.
Space Madness was a really good episode of Ren and Stimpy.
This is the best episode.
It's funny. I had my Adam moment in that finale too, though, because when she put those two in the pods and they take off, my first thought was, they're gonna die from the bends, right? I don't know dick about scuba diving, but I know the bends is bad.
Yeah, no, again, it's just like one of the long list of things you kind of have to just go like, never mind.
They're at 36,000 feet. Everything would be crushed at like every second of this entire movie.
Yeah.
There's one 2-person submarine that has made it like close to like 2/3 of the way down there. Like it's just not possible.
I would.
James Cameron made it.
I did appreciate too the like it's again like it's silly, but the effect when there is a crack in one of their suits and they just straight up implode like they're in the vacuum of space, like and just explode into chunks. That's I like that.
Yeah, I liked it.
Well, that one was pretty realistic, but like when the captain went and there's the big explosion, that's a little different.
Well, I assumed that there's like cores in that suit that are powering it and or oxygen that could cause an explosion if they're like exposed. That was kind of my thought. But
I assumed it was something like
science,
power related core. It
Science
seemed to
stuff
be.
went down.
Yeah, it seemed to be like some kind of fusion reactor because it ran out of juice and like it changed to different colors. So I was like, science.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
The one
in
part I
terms-
did like, I'm sorry to cut you off, Adam, again. The part I did like with like tension wise was with the captain when they got to that middle base where they were going to do the recharging and stuff, and they saw how bad shape it was, and he reached out and touched that window with his thumb, and it cracked. It's like, oh shit!
science.
In
How does
terms
it
of
work?
the what's it called? The ability to use 4 different levels for the explosion. I think I talked about this with Emroot in Slack. I think Joe was there. We were in the spoilers. So we were talking about like, what kind of liability you'd be exposed there for. So there's a couple different things interacting here. I mean, like there have been computer viruses that have like, there was the Stuxnet virus, which was a worm that was infected Iranian technology. I think that was in 2013, 14. And that basically shut down a uranium processing plant by speeding up the basically the motor that was inside so fast that there was a meltdown. Similar thing here where you're basically turning up the levels of production so fast that it would explode. It would be kind of like a nuclear meltdown, like a Chernobyl. The issue is that, like, again, it's not clear how quick a blast, and you wouldn't be able to calculate the blast because there was a nice graphic that told us that the pods were going to make it. I did a bunch of science, like
Adam,
I did a bunch of research on that.
Adam, you thought about this way too much,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
I researched the Rayleigh
Oh my God,
instability factor and like how explosions work underwater. It was a whole thing.
Adam, do you need do you need an intervention? Serious question.
Yes, I was sitting in my room with strings all on a chalkboard.
I'm really
Crazy Charlie.
what I like about this episode is that I'm kind of adding some shades to my Adam character, and I'm enjoying it. But it's probably not great
Yes.
for you.
Oh, I'm ripping my hair out. No, anyway, I was just saying that like in
It's
terms
very
of
like that.
liability-
It's very like that gif of Charlie from Always Sunny with the
That's
cork
exactly
board
what I
behind him.
just said. Crazy Charlie.
Yeah.
In terms of liability, it would be very similar to the BP oil spill. So they had $18 billion in settlements for different companies. It's unlikely the nuclear material would get very far, especially in the Marianas Trench, but like you'd still have environmental protection agencies coming after you.
Well,
And also
hundreds.
it's nuclear material. So definitely the government is involved in this. For some reason, the news clippings at the end, they said, well, the company is denied government involvement. And I'm like,
Adam,
they have nuclear
Adam,
material. They
Adam,
can't do that.
It's the future. There will be no governments in the future. It'll just be
true.
companies. You know that as
From
well
what
as
I
do.
understood, the BP made up for everything. Just putting out a commercial that said, "Hey, we're sorry. Look how happy everybody on the
Yeah,
Gulf
that was
is
fine.
now.
They hugged a seal and they were done.
We're cool."
Also, like, let's not forget, hundreds of people died whose families might be wondering what happened to them.
Yeah. But I got 2 of them out.
All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap on our underwater discussion. Very, very nice discussion. Joe, would you recommend this?
I would say you don't need to run out to the theater, but definitely when it comes out on DVD, I would give it a thumbs up.
Casey,
Yeah, this is a good Netflix watch.
Adam,
You throw it on.
It's
Don't
fine to
support
say
T.J.
no.
Miller with your money.
I don't know.
Yeah.
T.J. Miller's side. I like dumb sci-fi action movies. This is right up my alley. So I kind of like the idea of supporting it. But you do you. This is an Eric movie. If you're an Eric out there, might be into it. That's all I'm going to say. All right, guys. Let's do a quick break and do some fan mail.
Experience the most exciting night at the movies this summer.
It's very intense.
I'm still shaking. I've never seen anything like this.
Experience the abyss.
Unbelievable. They dragged me here and I loved it.
There's always something happening.
It was thrilling.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Blew my mind. You felt like you were right there in the middle of the screen.
The abyss.
It blew Batman out of the water.
Rated PG-13.
Now playing Check Your Newspapers for Showtimes.
Hello, I'm Nell Campbell from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. Next week, we talked about it. I believe this is the timing we're going to be doing this Nicolas Cage thing, Lovecraft movie called Color Out of Space. So get excited for that. Joe.
You betcha.
Joe, can we take a look at my top 10 list quick?
We can. Do you want me to run it down? What you've got on there so far?
Just 3 from hell.
You got nothing.
I'm going to go out on a
We're
limb.
starting with a clean slate.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, Joe. This is so exciting. I love this process. Number one movie of 2020, Underwater.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
I mean, I don't know if I should put it on mine. It is the best movie I've seen this year for the show.
You got to work the system or it doesn't work.
All right. Yeah, I'm putting it number 1 too right now.
Let's do it.
I will also put it on my number 1 worst also.
Sorry for the coughing, guys. I've been sick for literally 10 days straight. Joe, really quick, people who participated in the 5K, everybody has their stuff now? Is that right?
Everybody has their stuff now. Everyone in the U.S., I should say, has their medals. I think I never talked to anyone about this, but anyone overseas who participated, I offered up a back episode for free. So if you didn't get that, just shoot us an email, bloodygoodhorror@gmail.com, and I can send you one of your choosing. Everybody at a $10 level of our patron or Patreon, depending on which land you're from, should have your t-shirts or have them in the next few days. I think some of the international ones are still shipping, but they are all in the mail. Aussie Andy, yours will be there in a few days, I promise. And yeah, we're finally, I think, up to date on everything that we promised we would do over at Bloody Good Horror.
Joe hand ships everything with love, just so you guys know.
Yeah,
you betcha.
Well, what's funny is I had been procrastinating because I was away for 2 weeks and been procrastinating getting the remaining ones out, and then finally a couple weeks ago I sat down to do it and realized I only had like 2 shirt sizes left that I could actually send out. So we ended up having to just do an order from TeePublic, and they just shipped them out for us. So the nice thing is I can say last time we printed shirts for the 10 year, we ran out of like 4 and 5 XLs like almost immediately, and now I've got a ton here, and we ran out of medium larges and extra larges like almost immediately. So I want to say I don't want to say that the 5K and me putting that together has helped extend the life of our listeners, and you should thank me, but obviously there's some sort of correlation.
Yeah, that's how correlations work.
Yeah, so you guys are welcome. I've saved your lives, I guess.
Also, your use of a science term is going to make steam shoot out of Adam's ears right now.
Yes, that's how that works. I am a science man. I do wear bow ties. Maybe I'm a Bill Nye clone.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm not gonna lie, it came to mind at one point tonight.
I don't know, Joe. I'm still pretty fat.
I got
Did
a
you,
ton of shirts here for you. If you want
Casey?
'em.
Did you run the 5K?
No.
Well, there you go. That's your problem. If you want to send feedback to the show, info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Really quick, we got a missive from Andy, our editor at Bloody Good Horror. Luke has a review of this here movie, Underwater, also a movie called Villains, starring Micah Monroe. She, of course, of It Follows fame. And that sexy clown there, Bill Skarsgård.
Scared.
Sophie has a review of 2020's The Grudge. That just happened. And Natalie, our newest writer, she's back with another Primal Scream. She is a clinical psychologist writing about horror movies, and she is discussing trauma as it relates to the movie Us. Our best horror movie of 2019. So there you go.
I don't know if you read that, but it was very good. I really liked the article.
Sound-
And Adam, actually, since you're on, I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, but we kind of missed it because we were on break. But your Lords of Chaos explanation of Norwegian law, top article of 2019 for me. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I mean, you're speaking to an audience of one with that, so.
I was going to say, it wasn't even written by anyone at 21st Amendment Brewing.
Yeah. No, it was very good because their system is fascinating with like Varg he did murder someone, but there's a limit on how much jail time you can actually do. So he's walking free right now.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how many years he would have done in the States because oddly, arson would have been higher than his second-degree murder charges for that. So he would have like hundreds of years of arson if he was in the States, but they limit the amount of jail time you can do to up to 21 years, and you have to be given the option for parole after a third of that.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Is Varg the one who now has the racist YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Count Grishnak.
Yeah.
Got it.
Not even that. Like he was released while he was still serving time, right? Like I think it was like his birthday or something. He was out and he tried to escape and he fled and they had to track him down. And that still didn't tack on any additional time for him.
Amazing.
No.
What a world. We should move there.
Yeah.
All right. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. That's how you can send feedback. First up, Caitlin from Kissimmee. She says, week has been shot since I threw out my back, so finally checking out Climax. Holy shit, is this good? This is so insanely entertaining. Miles better than Midsummer. Ooh, that's an M-Root take right there. Holy moly. Hot Take Express over here.
Shot fired.
All right, next up. Oh, no, I made the text too small and I'm blind. What did I do? Oh, God, there we go. Joe, I don't know if we ever got email from this email address before, but we got an email from the following email address. Joe Charnews for president at joe.com. It says Paul, but that's his email address.
Good old Paul.
Paul says, well, goddamn, it's been a while. I just managed to log onto the internet for the first time since you started this podcast 2 or 3 years ago, and holy shit, I'm hanging on white knuckle to this rickety cart speeding up and down the wooden roller coaster that is Bleeding God's Horror Podcast.
What is happening?
Eric and Snars and the rest of them keep cracking wise, but it's clear that we are still missing something. More Joe. Once that polka music came on, framing old Blue Eyes and his deep crooning about the main beer company, Beer Pepper, I was hooked like all the street drugs that keep me sharp and on my toes and thinking of more Joe Charnew's business ops. It didn't even matter that the beer is called Peeper. None of what he says really matters. It's just that he's fucking saying it. Continued. So let's rename the podcast to the Joe Charnews with a Z hour, make it 2 hours, and then make a bunch of 6-second social promotional videos of Joe to put on Tic Tacs and whatever, and watch the cashola run in. Like they say, the more things change, the more Joe stays the same, which is good, because he's perfect.
Who says that?
I'll tell you who, Joe Charnews for president at joe.com.
Oh my God, my face hurts.
So Joe, looks like you got a fan out there.
Yeah, Paul has written him before, like years ago. I don't know if you guys remember, but he's.
Is this a dude you used to work with or something?
It is, yeah. It's funny. So I'm still a part of a fantasy football league with him, and I have been neglecting sending back the trophy for about 3 years, and I finally did. And I shot him an email, and all he did was reply. Not that he got it, just said, "I listened to the podcast and wrote in." That's it. That's all I've heard from him.
There you go.
Yeah.
I've been
Good
holding
guy.
on to that actually for like a week. So, oh no, I guess he just sent it. So
Yeah, I think so.
there you go. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. That's it for me, Joe.
Tic Tacs is my new favorite online video service.
Oh, you know that's hilarious. I didn't even put that together for some reason. Okay, now I get what you're saying.
Over on Twitter, we use the hashtag AskBGH. That's if you got a question about the movie or just need some advice or just want to get to know us, you can send it in there. At BG Horror is our Twitter handle. First up from our good friend Nylon Davinger. That's Lori, fellow patron.
Joe.
For those, yeah.
Nylon Avenger.
Nylon Davinger. I'm going to go with.
No. Okay.
Apologies if this has been discussed, but why is Jennifer no longer a bitch? I'm catching up on a few episodes and always gleefully quote along with Freddie. Did she have a particularly non-bitchy 2019? Is she more interested in daytime soaps?
Yeah, well, we just, we cut it out. We decided to just walk it back a little bit. Listen, you've got 12 years of reruns where Freddie says bitch.
Yeah. All right, next up from Skizbot. My girlfriend's parents' first date was to see The Exorcist. While it obviously all worked out in the end, what would probably be considered a bad movie for most couples? What was your worst first date?
I know I've said this before. My parents' first date was to Deliverance.
Yeah.
So it was the 70s,
Yeah. I don't think I've had any terrible first dates.
I have many.
I had one, and I can't.
Well,
remember
Adam, you're young
enough.
enough.
Went to see though.
Adam, I don't know if you use like an app, but you're young enough to actually do that. Whereas none of us, we all missed that, except maybe Joe in the beginning.
Yeah. Wait, what? I missed. What
did you ever do online dating, Joe?
I met my wife on AOL.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't have any bad dates.
You got mail?
You didn't have any bad dates through there?
Oh God. I mean, yeah, I guess. My friend, this is way more info than I want to let out, but my buddy and I used to meet a lot of women from the internet. So, yeah, it's a crapshoot, how things are gonna go. Certain details I don't want to get into, but for the most part, everything went fine. I would say, like, a lot of the women I met probably are on another podcast right now talking about their worst first date experience, and I might be thrown in there. But
this guy was wearing a Metallica T-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to nice it up, but
he slept with one eye open,
He
gripping
was,
his pillow.
he was wearing a shiny silver button-up shirt.
Yeah. Okay, so worst movie would probably be Human Centipede if you go with a third. And then my worst date was a first date where I ended up at the hospital because she fell like 6 feet off of a pillar and we thought her leg was broken. So we went to the hospital drunk and we were there for 5 hours.
Oh, God.
But
Dear
it was
God.
quite a good story. But yeah, it was a lot.
Brutal, dude.
Yeah, I'll tell that story at the next meetup.
Interesting. And are you guys still together now?
No. We were for a long time, though, because I have bad taste. Anyway.
All right.
I took a girl to see Sergeant Bilko once on a first date.
Oh, that's solid. That movie is class act.
What year did that come out in? Good Lord, dude.
I was in high school.
90s.
Yeah, I was. I think I want to say like 97 because I remember it coming out at the video store I worked at, and I watched it
All
constantly.
right, I don't think I know what Sergeant Bilko is because I thought that was an 80s movie.
No, it was Steve Martin playing not drill sergeant, but he was a captain of an army troop.
Okay, what's the movie with Goldie Hawn? Because that's what I was thinking of.
Private Benjamin.
Okay, all right. You see how I might be confused.
Yeah.
The movie is Overboard.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's the
love
one.
that. I love that movie so much.
It is very good. I always wanted to work at that miniature golf course that they make.
Casey, I can tell you that date was on or around March 29th, 1996.
Yep. Sounds about right.
All right, a few more here. Next up from Hey Moose. Do you think those diving suits had built-in pants?
Maybe. I don't know.
Potentially. I hope so.
I think you just let it all fly.
Yeah. And then we
You have to be in your underwear in them.
Well, you got to worry about like things getting pinched in joints, right?
They're penis powered. We learned that.
Yes. It's a very specific type of power.
They're powered by flesh.
So you're saying you have to have a joystick to pilot that thing?
No, I specifically did
You
not
can
say
strap
that.
it on too, but you have to have something.
Next, we got 3 from our good buddy Cody Yolo. First up, if you could have a miniature movie sea monster in a fish tank, what do you choose? I would go back to the Kraken from the original Clash of the Titans. I thought that thing was super cool. I'd love to have it floating around. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Seaman from the Sega Dreamcast.
Ooh, Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Shape of Water monster because it's the sexiest one, right?
I don't want that thing crawling out and trying to do sex with me in the middle of the night.
He has a 10-pack.
You might like it.
He could control
super
that.
horny.
He could control that diving suit really well.
Like next level horny. Next one he asks, if you could eat any movie sea monster, which would you choose?
Oh,
Jaws.
Gross.
Yeah, I guess Jaws is probably a good one. I would maybe go, that Shape of Water guy. I think just because I feel like I'd be doing the world a favor where he's not
I
trying
think
to
you're sending
squizzle.
mixed messages here, Joe.
Yeah. And then last one, finally, on a scale of 1 to 10, how moist was underwater?
10.
It's pretty wet. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say full on wet. I would say it's probably not very moist.
Stopping.
Also, like a lot of water getting in those suits, and then they're resealing the helmets, and made me wonder what that does to what happens with the water with the pressurization.
Yeah, the logic behind it. Last but not least, our friend Chris Alanotti, Chili AF. If you could set the sequel to any ongoing franchise under the ocean, which one would you pick?
Like if you could,
Hashtag 3 from hell get wet.
what is he
It has to
saying?
be a current series?
Oh, a different series that's not underwater. Wow. How about Halloween?
Yeah, I guess like ongoing series
How about
movie.
Halloween
so, like,
underwater?
yeah.
What about
You know,
Michael
anything
Myers
like that.
on this research station?
Well, I was gonna say we've all seen Jason Voorhees changed to the
Underwater.
floor of the lake. So what if he's trying to break into the sea, the underwater station, right?
He's just walking around the Marianas Trench. That reminds me of well, because like when in part 6, when he walks out of the water, he doesn't float; he just continues to go down. It reminds me of that shark movie. I think it was Deep Blue Sea 2, where there's literally a shark like eavesdropping on somebody outside of a window, and its eye is just in the window, like floating like this.
Yes.
No, that was that or was it the Meg?
I think
I know exactly what we're
No, I'm
talking
pretty
about.
sure it was Deep Blue Sea 2.
Yeah, it was Deep Sea.
Oh God, I love that. It's just
Deepest, bluest, my hat's like a
Because
shark's fin.
not too long after that was that amazing scene where it jumps up out of the observation pool or whatever, and like slow motion bites the whole person's arm off, and then a metal song starts playing. Do you remember that?
Oh, so good. Yeah, I do.
That movie
I
might have been
remember it
good, is what I'm saying.
all. That's it for tweets though.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you for that,
That's all,
Joe.
guys.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody,
you.
tonight. Next week, as we mentioned, we're going to do this movie that I got to scroll back up, The Color Out of Space. This is a low-budget Nick Cage, batshit-looking Lovecrafty type thing. It's just coming out, I believe, next week on demand, so we're going to have a review of a new release you can check out.
And this is also the return of Richard Stanley, who's directed Dust Devil and Hardware in the past. And he was the ill-fated first director on the island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I am familiar with Hardware, and I'm familiar a little bit with the Dr. Moreau story, so that's kind of interesting. Cool. All right, guys, that's going to do. Don't forget, you can check out Mr. Adam Space Lawyer's column In Extremis at bloodygoodhorror.com. You can go find that one on that metal movie that I'm forgetting the name of.
Lords of Chaos.
Lords of Chaos, yep. As well as Natalie's latest article, new reviews all the time. bloodygoodhorror.com. And if you want a live stream of this show, bloodygoodhorror.com. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. You get a live stream. You get access to all of our back catalog and a bunch more things, including our Slack community. Check that out. Help support the show. Either way, thank you guys for listening. Excited getting rolling here into 2020. We'll talk to you next week.
Adam will start. Okay, bye now. We go bye. Everybody go bye.
Bye-bye.